Hey there, Gemini. Eric Francis Coppolino here with a preview and summary of the Gemini reading that I've just completed. I've completed three parts of this reading, an approximately 40-minute audio first section, giving an overview of most of your chart, followed by a second 30-minute audio, giving the rest of what I see in your chart being right here. That's your solar chart. And then I've just completed a 30-minute video tarot reading using the Voyager deck by Dr. James Wanless. And this card came up prominently. That is the integrity card. That seems to be what you are about. This seems to be balancing your growth and integrity against expectations that may not be true. So the one of the gist of the tarot card reading is you have great things happening, but what you want to do is you want to set modest expectations so that you kind of sail through the water on a kind of an even keel and are not dictated to by things that are not necessarily true in a way. And I've based that reading on the Gemini solar chart. I have a whole presentation on the Gemini solar chart where I explain what this thing is. This is the main thing that I use to do your birthday reading, your annual reading, which comes out each January and still available. That's called Vision Quest. And then in addition, all of the weekly horoscopes and monthly horoscopes I do for Gemini all use this chart, the Gemini solar chart. There's one for every sign. That's why I can do accurate work. Now, this is what the solar chart looks like when you put the planets in and take away the coloring around the houses. And there is in this chart, there is a thing called a grand cross. Here's your sign, Gemini. We can add the sun, the moon, and Venus to that. They are oopsie daisy. They are there, and that those are opposed by Saturn, squared by Neptune, Chiron, and Nessus, and then also squared by Jupiter. This is to say that I'm holding in my hands one of the most no bullshit solar charts that I have ever seen, and that is because you have Saturn and Jupiter and Neptune and Chiron working on you all at the same time. This is what my old mentor, who I never met, but who taught me astrology, basically from the pages of the New York Post, Patrick Walker, would call enforced changes. You are being put in a position where it's pretty much grow or die. No one necessarily likes to be in that position, but when you are in that position, then it is clearly time to grow so that you get the growth part of that. And remember that the transformation can feel like some part of you is dying, like you're giving up some part of you, which is true. You're giving up the old facets of who you are. You're giving up the things about you that are more relevant in the past and not necessarily that helpful in the past. And so among the things you've got going on, well worth mentioning are, first of all, in your career angle, in your professional angle, you have four outer planets. You have Nessus, Neptune, Chiron, and Borisisi. Currently, there are no what you might think of as nearby, more accessible planets, and this is describing some amazing potential on the one hand, and on the other hand, well, it's getting suddenly extraordinarily bright in here. Really amazing potential on the one hand, and on the other, a challenge activating that potential, because all of the planets that are in your 10th house of your career and your potential are planets that are based on the idea of non-ordinary consciousness, and that's saying that you are being called upon to do something that is not ordinary, that you have some unusual goal that you are intending to fulfill, that there's some calling, some special calling that is calling you. And what I've described in this reading is how you work with non-ordinary consciousness planets to answer that calling, right? Because if you have an ordinary consciousness planet in there, God, my hair is all tangled up in my little earpiece. it's easy, right? You say, oh, well, I have Venus up there. I'm just going to do something fun. I'm going to do something beautiful. Or if you have Saturn up there, you say, well, I'm going to do something with discipline. These are planets of ordinary consciousness. When we get into non-ordinary consciousness planets, Neptune, Chiron, Nessus, you might not have heard of that. That's a Centaur planet. Boracisi, that's a planet out in the realm where Pluto is. You have to make special decisions. You have to take things into account that you might not take into account otherwise. You need to see the world a different way, and also I think be especially clear about what you want, and that is what I talk about. The other thing going on of major note, two things simultaneous actually, that is right here. You have Saturn there, Mr. Saturn, in your relationship house. And this is proposing some kind of a challenge to your relationships where they really are in a position where they must mature. You're in a position, again, it's a grow or transform or struggle endlessly kind of thing. So these are options. Growth is an option. Transformation is an option. Struggling is an option. What I describe in the reading is how Saturn is compelling you to, first of all, deal with certain facts about your inherent nature as a person who has relationships, which is that you need space, you need freedom, and you need flexibility. You need it every bit as much as a person born under the sign Sagittarius needs it, possibly even more, and you're likely to attract partners who do that too, who need that also. So there's a compatibility there, but when you put Saturn in there, that is saying you must take these properties, these qualities of who you are seriously, so that you are not kind of left behind in your own life. So there's a catharsis process with Saturn going through the seventh, and that's kind of a cleansing of your relationships, and including not being hung up on the ones that don't work for you. So there's something there. And the other thing going on is that I described the relationship of Saturn making a conjunction to the Great Attractor. The Great Attractor actually is this thing called Laniakea, which is a cluster of 100,000 galaxies, and that is saying that there is likely to be something extraordinarily what humans would call spiritual coming through, but this is not spiritual in the sense of like, wow, that incense smells nice. This is not an aesthetic form of spirituality. This is an opening to a direct form of contact with what you might think of as a set of possibilities beyond the normal possibilities, and that these will come into relationships beyond what we think of as being typical in a relationship. And the thing to remember is your relationships can block that, or they can facilitate that, and I describe that process of how you make those choices. A couple of other bits. You have Jupiter down here in the fourth house. This is kind of saying, first of all, it's a reminder to feather your own nest. It's also a reminder to stretch emotionally, and more than anything, it's a reminder to get out the door and experience the world, to not expect the world to come to you, though it may be doing some of that, but it's also a reminder that you need to meet the world halfway between here and there on partly its terms, partly your terms, and make sure that you take that adventure that is both an inward adventure and an outward adventure. This I get into as well. Finally, I talk about the Uranus-Eris conjunction up here, extraordinarily potent thing that's happening now for the first time since 1928. Okay, there's a conjunction happening for the first time since 1928. This is about your relationship to your friends. It's about who your friends are, and it's about what you are able to manifest in the world to the extent that you are some kind of a public figure, which now, thanks to the internet, everyone is some kind of a public figure, but there is something really here blowing open your consciousness wide and making sure that you are part of the right community, that you have friends who are supportive of you, that you understand your leadership role, particularly your creative leadership role, and that you understand the impact of digital media on your whole experience of who you are becoming. So you've probably seen a good few of my discussions of the way in which media impact us individually and how they transform our lives and transform all of society. that and many other things are what I describe in your reading, how this influences you personally. This is surprisingly personal astrology, given that I'm not working with your natal chart, but I am very good at the solar chart. It is a real tool. I'm one of the astrologers who has developed the solar chart. Patrick was the best at the solar chart. Any good horoscope columnist knows how to use this thing, but I've used it, loved it, cultivated it, developed it for 22 years, and I think that it gives me, along with the life I live and my love for people, some real insight into what's going on for you. So I'm here to help. $29. It's well worth getting it. It is affordable and it's guaranteed. If you get the thing and you feel like it didn't do anything for you, just call us up and we'll put the money back into your credit card. They really are worth a lot more than $29. But I am all about astrology for the people. All right, till next time. Don't miss the other Gemini videos, by the way. The Gemini solar chart video, the videos about the Grand Cross that is in the process of happening and peaked on Sunday, and others. Lots of good, fun stuff. See ya around Planet Waves and around the universe. Bye for now.